Welcome, everybody. My name is Amber Gould. I am very excited to be hosting our HR Metrics and Analytics class, and I'm excited to be meeting all of you over the next 7 weeks. Today's presentation, we're going to go just through a little bit about me, the house rules of the class, and then we're going to dive right into week 1 of our readings. So first, a little about me. My name is Amber Gould, as I said. I am a practical HR professional, and I work for an organization called Advantage Solutions. We have about 100,000 associates throughout the world, and my role is really overseeing benefits, compensation, compliance, leaves, accommodations, the Associate Service Center, and employee relations. So kind of the HR operational parts of our business. I have quite a few team members that work under me, and pretty cool, I think, experience that I have had is I taught at a different university in the HR program before, and then I teach classes for SHRM and the University Conference Center, which does a lot of HR benefits and retirement courses, and I have met most of the people who work for me within those settings, so that's pretty neat. Personally, I am a wife, I'm a mom, I'm also an employee, so I definitely get the juggle and the struggle that we're doing to keep it all together. So something that I promise to give to you guys is as much flexibility as possible to get a hold of me. You'll have my phone number, you'll have my email address. I check all of them all the time, so that way you know that I'm here for you and so forth. So with that, we'll go into our house rules. So our house rules really are kind of in 4 things. So the most important thing is I want you guys to read the articles and the chapters every single week. To make things easy, I definitely understand that things are expensive. I've made copies of all of those readings for you. The book that we're going to be using is written by Dr. Sullivan, who is absolutely amazing. I own lots of his books, but most importantly, I own this book, and it is marked up, tattered, ripped, pages ripped out, notes put in it. It is my go-to HR book. It is my mentor's go-to HR book. I hopefully will make it your go-to HR book when you're all done. So if you start to love it, please, I recommend that you purchase it, or maybe even later in your future you purchase it. It is a great book, and it's really kind of like the metrics guide for dummies. It's just amazing. I love it. Next is to watch the video. So you're going to want to watch this PowerPoint. You're going to want to watch any additional, YouTube videos that I've posted and so forth. I do what's called a book walk. So I'll review the chapter with you, and my goal is to really pull in real life examples for you. So the book is good and talking about it is good, but really it's putting it into practice. So I will tell you how everything that we are learning I have done in my career, or I've seen other companies do, giving you benchmark information, or what other companies, because it's putting it into practice that's the most important part. I am sure none of you are getting this HR certification just because you want to be a great leader and you want to be a great HR practitioner, and the best way to do that is by doing. So we'll talk about real life examples on all things that we read. The assignments I have given you are in 2 parts. The first one are your chapter questions that deal with the book, of course, but they're more of you putting it into your own words so that you have the opportunity to take what you've learned and to regurgitate it into what you think. So that way, again, it's not just about reading, it's really pulling it into how you feel and how you think and what you took away from it. Most of the time in the chapter questions, there isn't a right or wrong answer. If there is, you'll know by the way that it's written. But it's really on what do you think, what do you see, and how do you put it into practice. And then that leads us into part 2, which is putting it together. So almost every single week, you're actually going to put what you learned into practice. I will give you a scenario. I will ask you to pretend you are a leader of a function or a business person in a function and have you start creating metrics. My goal is at the end of this class, we'll take everybody's metrics and we'll share it with the whole team. So that way when you leave, you have this like war chest of metrics that you can slowly start delivering to your organization as you move on with your career. And the last part, which honestly really is the most important part, is the discussion. This, is my first, I'll be honest, online class in this forum. The online classes I've taught before are live online classes, so where we talk live in like a discussion room. We all dial in on a conference call. And most of the classes I've taught are in person. So what I want to make sure is that we have time to be collaborative and that We're going to learn from each other based on our experiences in our careers right now, our experiences of what we've done in the past, maybe friends, colleagues, and we'll do that by each of us taking part in the online discussion. So as I was told by my team who works for me, many of them are under 25, that this is, what they love the most about their classes. So I've really tried to make the discussion something that will be robust for all of us. On the bottom, you see my phone number and you see my email, so please don't hesitate to reach out. This is your class, right? You're going to get out of this what you want your 7 weeks out of, so I want to make it as beneficial to you. I also want to be very direct that you're not going to learn all things and everything metrics in 7 weeks. So what we get out of it will be a really good basic foundation, fundamental piece of making you great HR metric leaders. All right, so let's go on to our next piece of this puzzle. Excuse me. Our HR life cycle. The employee/HR life cycle is the most important thing for you to really know foundationally of human resources. It's, everything from how someone comes into this company to how they leave the company. And that's important because every step of the way you can measure if you're being effective or not. You can measure and tell the story on how much you are delivering to the business. And the whole reason we do metrics in HR is because really two things. We're trying to change behavior, right? We're trying to influence the business to do something that we think is important for them to gain revenue for the business. Or we're trying to show that something or someone or a type of program is delivering business revenue, right? Metrics are numbers. And with those numbers, we do the analytics, and the analytics is the story. So you will hear me talk about all the time our HR story, and our HR story is how you analyze the numbers that you are going through. So analyzing the numbers is your ability to be an effective business leader. So let's talk about attracting employees, right? How do you in your company attract employees? Do you put your open recs on LinkedIn, on Snapchat, on Facebook, on Career Builder? How long does it take for someone to apply? My rule of thumb, if something takes me longer than 10, 15 minutes to apply, I'm not going to apply for it. Benchmark will tell you that a millennial or centennial, if it takes more than 5 to 10 minutes, they won't apply. So what does that mean? Does that mean that you're losing a segment of the market population of great, talented employees that aren't coming in because your onboarding process to apply to a job the requisition process is too cumbersome? Do you have the right amount of candidates that are applying? Do you have a certain kind of candidate that's applying? I mean, you can analyze all different things on the talent that's coming in and applying for your jobs. And then you want to look at who are you selecting? How do you interview? Do you have interview guides? Do you have interview questions? Is it rogue? Is it a cumbersome process? Do you make the candidate come back 8 or 10 times, and what happens? Do they drop out of it? Are you getting counter offers? Are you getting associates who are not accepting the position because of certain reasons? Are you getting people who are quick to say yes to a position? So could you be over offering or over hiring? All of those things are really important, knowing how you're selecting the candidates within your business. And then, next is onboarding. What does that look like? What does someone's 30, 60, 90 days at work look like? What's really important to know and to remember in HR is that in the digital age, how people feel about your organization will quickly be blasted in social media. So how someone applies and how they're selected and how they're onboarded can have a positive or negative effect on your business. So the onboarding piece, and I'm going to use my team as an example, we have a pretty robust onboarding from, what your experience when you walk in the door of balloons or decorations, and how we walk you around to the actual training plan that we have, and how I can measure if you're successfully making it through your training plan is really important to me, not only as a hiring manager, but in HR, because I want to make sure that the person being hired successful. But more importantly, as we all know, when you hire a new person, it's a drain on everybody, right? Because everyone has to help and train, and it slows things down. So I don't want to do that a lot, right? I only want to do it when I am expanding or growing or someone's gotten a promotion. I don't want to do it because my culture is having people turn over on me. The next piece is development. How do you develop your people? Do you develop your people? What kind of trainings do you offer? What kind of trainings do you want to offer? Do those trainings show growth within the organization? Do those trainings help engage and retain people so that you're attracting the right talent and selecting the right people? So these development pieces could be part of your onboarding. These development could be how you select and how you train your managers to interview. These development pieces could be how you create a system to apply for a job. It is not a built-on approach. All of these sections impact another section. It's a life cycle. And at any given time, you can measure how effective you're being. So let's talk about separation, right? People will leave. How do they leave? Why are they leaving? Are certain people leaving under a certain department more than others? Are certain people leaving due to compensation? Are certain people leaving to a different competitor than you would have expected? Why are people leaving? Who is leaving? When are they leaving? Are they voluntary leaving or are they involuntary leaving? If you've got a lot of people that you're firing, what are you doing as an organization in the selection process, the onboarding process, and the development process that's making you fire so many people? So those are the things within the life cycle of being an HR business leader that you want to be able to measure and tell the story. So our role in HR is to be proactive versus reactive. Right? We want to proactively be able to tell the business what we think they should be doing to drive more business revenue. We need to anticipate future needs. We can't wait for the business to come to us to tell us that our training isn't working or that they need this training. We should be in the business meetings. We should be in the financial statement meetings. We should be in our earnings calls. We should be in the operational reviews. What is going on? Who are your competitors? What's our next technology data set? Where are we trying to be innovative? And then you need to be able to, as an HR leader, add value to those conversations. You need to know your business. Dr. Sullivan says this in the book. My mentor has said it to me in the last 10 years that he has mentored me. You are a business leader and you work in HR. Like any other function, finance, operations, marketing, sales, you name it. They work for the company and they provide a functional service. HR needs to stop being this outside agency looking in. We are part of the business. We are the business. We are equally as important to the business, and I would say we're the most important part of the business because we can impact the business at every single part of the life cycle of your organization. And that's what we're going to talk about over the next 7 weeks. All right, so let's talk about being an agile HR workforce. So we need to move away from just being seen as the team that checks the boxes, right? Oh, did you enroll? Is the I-9 there? How do I write someone up? How do I put them on a PIP? How do I promote? I want this job title. All things that we do, all things very important. I mean, that's a day in and day out of my job, but I'm more than that. My team is more than that. We're not just this operational admin team. We are a leadership team, and we are a leadership team that is agile and that's going to deliver 5 very key things for my business. My job is to identify business barriers. I need to identify if our hiring process is so cumbersome that we're not getting the right talent. I need to identify if we are losing people to competitor B and what is competitor B doing so that we can keep them at our company. I need to be able to shift resources at any time. I need to be able to know that if we have top talent at a department that is maybe not driving the best revenue or it's a dying part of the business, right? We're going to reinvent our business and we have some really top talent there, but that's not the part of the business we want to focus in. How do we shift those resources over? I need to be able to say, okay, we have X amount of money in our rewards coffer and we want to really reward people who sell ABC widget. Why don't we move away from putting our bonus plan into this bucket and let's move it over to the new widget bucket? The concept of moving away from equal is really important. So it's not being legal or ethical, right? We definitely want to make sure we're always legal and we're always compliant. I'm going to assume throughout all my trainings, all 7 weeks, that everything we're doing is legal and compliant. So when we talk about moving away from equal, so I'm going to use my business for an example. We're very big, right? We said we have 100,000 people. We have about 4 different types of business entities. We have an experiential marketing, we have a digital technology, we have a sales business, we have a food service business, and then we have like a demo business. What ticks and attracts one person in one of those businesses, let's talk about Sexy Agency, is very different than what is going to attract someone into my demo business. The benefit packages might need to look different. How we hire in a new hire needs to look different. We need to be consistent, and we need to be compliant, and we need to be making sure we're following all the rules and regulations within those organizations. But those are 2 different organizations that offer 2 different products. That one size peanut butter approach doesn't work for both of those organizations. And my job is to know how to shift resources, find the barriers that are impacting those 2 businesses, move away from the equal, right? Not all things need to be peanut butter. Identify those changes that are needed, and then do them. Present them, not emotionally, but factually, with the story behind it, the analytics behind it on why we need to do those things. You can't do any of this unless you have support. My biggest tip for this agility slide to you is, when you're ready to move forward on a new process, a new project, a new training, a new whatever, use a cohort group. Do a guinea pig group. Find someone who believes and values you and your function, and practice it on them. See if it works. Because if it doesn't work, no harm, no foul. Versus if you were to launch it organizationally wide. And if it does work, then you're going to have that cheerleader behind you that's going to help you implement that through all your other businesses. So in my organization, we wanted to implement a very costly diabetic program because our diabetes claims were, bazillions of dollars. So what we did is we found a cohort group in our agencies. Our agencies like really cool new techie things. And we said, okay, agency, would you be willing to let us launch this to your people? It's going to cost this amount of money. It should deliver this amount in ROI savings. But we don't want to do it company-wide because we want to make sure the communication is correct, that it actually works, that it's not too cumbersome or complicated. We want to get the team's feedback if it works or doesn't work. The business said, yeah, Amber, definitely, let's do it because, 1, healthcare costs are expensive. 2, this is something I think even if we didn't make the ROI you're saying, I want to keep because it's a perk that in our agency that people want. And 3, our people will give you really good feedback so that they want to be the ones to say, oh, agency did it first and it was great, right? So positive is once we launched, we're able to do the whole metric story, and we're going to talk about the 5 attributes of a successful metric. Once we're able to show what happened with this diabetic program, I was able to launch it 100,000 associate wide, right? And I became a hero because I didn't decide to just peanut butter spread it across at first, and I'm glad I didn't because we had a lot of hiccups with the program. Things worked, things didn't. Communication needed to be changed. What worked for some people didn't work for other people. We had to work with the vendor. I mean, there was just a lot of things that I had to smooth out that if I would have done it with everybody at once, I guarantee it would have been shot down, and I wouldn't have been able to do it year 2. So those are the things you want to think about. And that's so important to being agile as a business because our business doesn't stay stagnant. We can't stay stagnant. We are leaders in this business. All of us are. And this is, the class, in my opinion, that's really going to make you stand out from the rest because you are going to be the person who doesn't just have an opinion. You're going to have the person that has numbers and a story to go along with it. All right, so let's talk about metrics. What's the metrics? Why do you need them? Why are you taking this class? Without numbers, it is just an opinion. Without numbers and without analytics, the story, it's just an opinion. The analytical part of a metric is what sells you. You become a salesperson in your organization, but you're not an emotional salesperson. You are a factual, data-driven sales executive that is going to change the outcome of your business. The single difference between a great HR team and an average one is the use of metrics. So a little tidbit about me when I apply for a job. The first question I ask any person I'm interviewing with in the HR field is, what does HR measure? What's your dashboard look like? What do you measure? Many times, most times I get, what our turnover is, what our Time to fill is we measure our budgets, how many leaves we have. Okay. Well, what do you do with those metrics? Oh, we give them out every single month to the business. Okay. And what does the business do with those metrics? Quiet. So what of those metrics did the business want you to measure? Quiet. So I won't go work for that organization. I much prefer an organization that says we don't measure much and we want to measure a lot and we want to drive business revenue and we know that we need to and that's why we're hiring you. Right? That's what I want. Or I want an organization that says, oh, we measure these 5 things. Some of them are stagnant within HR. Like we want to know what we're doing in HR. It's like our HR temperature check. And then here's the one that the business has asked and this is what we do with it. So let me give you an example. We hire 15 people. We completed 15 trainings. 15 people met their sales quota. Those are good numbers, right? Those are numbers. Those are metrics. But a 5 attribute of a successful metric would say, hey, Susie manager, we hired 15 people for you in the last 30 days, and they were for your 5 key roles. And of those 15 people, 100% of them completed their 90-day onboarding and delivered a $15,000 over sales quota deliverable for you. So how do you feel that our quality of hire is doing for you? Susie manager, oh my gosh, they're just amazing. Thank you. I didn't even realize all of this. Yeah, Susie, you still have 30 open recs. If you would help fund another TA person, could you imagine what we could do for you? I mean, look what we delivered in 30 days, those 15 people for you. $15,000 over delivery for each of them. Let's talk. That is a successful attribute use for metrics and to tell your story, right? Your story is your analytics. And I just told a story. The behavior change I wanted was to get Susie manager to let me have a new TA person. At the same time, I'm also able to measure the quality of my onboarding programs, the quality of my hires, the quality of our interviewing. Right? Because all those things I just told that story in. So let's go into these 5 attributes. You're going to have hard metrics and soft metrics. Both are very, very important. Hard metrics, in my opinion, are going to be the one that sells you the most, and your end sales pitch is your soft metric. Those are the more feeling type metrics that HR is known for doing, that we can't be just doing. We need to do them all. We need to take out the emotion. We need to take out the words, put in the metrics, and then put back into the emotion. I'm a very extroverted person. I have lots of energy. I could probably work in sales, but I know well enough to know that my metrics are what speaks the credibility of what I have and helps me deliver it more. I'm always confident in delivering because I know my numbers, and that's how all of you are going to be. All right, so let's talk about quality. These hard metrics are no order of importance. They're all very important. They sometimes can be used by themselves, right? You could just have a quality metric or just have a time metric or just have a money metric or just have a quantity metric. But the reality is they are so much more important and they are so much more influenceable if you use them all together. You can have a better story, a better analytic approach to whatever you're trying to do, right? We use metrics to change behavior. We use metrics to drive business revenue. And the best way to do that is putting all of these together so that you can, use your data to make your point. So a hard metric is something that's tangible, it's visible, it falls into, a very category of yes or no, black or white. It's not a feeling. So quality measures the error rate of the quality of the output of a process. So what that means is you're going to measure the impact of something. So let's talk about trainings, right? If you do a training and you measure the impact of that training, you're going to get budget for more trainings. If you measure the impact of a bonus program, right? Let's say the business is like, I want a bonus program for XYZ. And I want, a manager comes to you and says, I want to give $100,000 to Susie because she's the best. And you're like, no, and that I wouldn't recommend that, and here's why. And they're like, nope, I want to do that. And then afterwards, the behavior you want to change is like, this was a bad idea, and you show that Susie only generated $50,000 worth of revenue. You're like, you lost some money here. Or let's say you want to know if something that you sent out to your associates drove the behavior change that you were looking for, right? You're going to have X amount of associates click on an email about uh, not smoking. And then from there, 20 of those associates clicked on it, read it, and then joined a smoking cessation class. And then in 60 days, you saw that half of them stopped smoking. Well, then it worked, right? Those are the things you want from a quality standpoint is whatever you did it produce the results you wanted? And sometimes they're going to be no, and that's okay. And sometimes you want them to be no because you're trying to make a point. For me, a point I always try to make is trainings, right? How many of us are guilty of being the person's like, oh, I don't want to go to that training. I know I am. So I always tell my managers, here's the training that I think we need to have. And we just had this major conversation regarding interviewing, right? We had through metrics and data, I was able to show a kind of cohort group of managers that were just not very good interviewers, and they were not getting the top talent, right? They just weren't getting the caliber of hire, and they were complaining that we weren't doing a good enough job bringing in the right people. And I said, why don't we do some interview training? And then let's see what that results in, because my gut is going to tell me that it's going to result in this and this, because this cohort group of sales managers are doing the interview training, and they're hiring people at a higher caliber level than your managers. So why don't we try it? If it doesn't work, no harm, no foul, right? Didn't cost you anything other than the 4 hours I need of their time. Well, guess what? We did it. We measured it. We showed it worked. I just got an advocate in HR for me. That's the importance of metrics, but the quality metric. So the quantity metrics, the one that we all use, it's how many communications did I send? How many people did I hire? What's my average salary? How many people are on leave? How many people terminated? So the quantity is really important, right? Because the quantity says something. But the quantity shouldn't always be where it stops. We are guilty of quantity metrics here in my team. I will be honest, internally we do have quantity metrics, just quantity. There's not the 5 attributes, just quantity. How many people are on leave? How many accommodations do we have? Easy for me to pull every single month just to see if there's any trends happening. Too many leaves, too many whatever. If I start seeing trends then, because we do have some manual processes here. We have to use a lot of Excel, and our analytics aren't as streamlined in all areas as I would like. So I have to kind of pick and choose, right? Pick and choose versus resources of what we're going to do. So when I start seeing a trend of too many leaves, then I will start saying, okay, let's dig into this. Where are the leaves at? Is it a specific manager? Was that manager trained? And then we look at all of those other things that can tell me a bigger story. So quantity is important, but it's not as effective as if you have quantity plus like quality or time, measuring the time period. So time is measured from this, between 2 periods. So let's give some example of a time metric. Time to fill is the biggest one. How long does it take from the time a requisition is given to you for you to fill it? So you'll get some companies that will tell me, when I've interviewed or if I've gone in to help them design their metrics for their organization, oh my gosh, our time to fill is amazing. We fill all of our positions within 20 days. I'm like, oh, great. So what's the quality of those hires? Big old eyes. What do you mean? Well, are they better than the hires of the previous group? Are they at or above the average associate in the company? How many of them stay? How many of them turn over? Are they being scheduled the way they're supposed to? Are the managers happy with them? How are they? Silence. So it's great if you're hiring fast, but if you're just hiring a heartbeat, that doesn't help. So time to fill is a great time metric, but the bigger story is, let's say you want to change behavior. Let's say you want to say, we need more people to help us fill roles because our quality of hire isn't very good because we're becoming a puppy machine of hiring people. Or maybe we want to say we want to do more interview training because we think that the way that we are interviewing people isn't selecting the right characteristic or trait of an employee we want. Or let's say we're looking at health outcomes. So I look at health outcomes day in and day out. Remember I talked about the diabetes, right? We looked at one group of people over 1 year, and then we had them do a program, and we looked at that same group of people the next year, and we looked to see Was the program that we put in place delivering the health outcomes that we wanted, right? For them as an employee and for us as an employer. And it did. It worked. So it was worth that investment. Sometimes it's not worth that investment from an ROI standpoint. Maybe your culture is okay, right? So many times with health outcomes, I'll say wellness programs, a lot of companies will say, I can't measure if it's a true ROI, but it has an intrinsic value of a customer service metric that we're going to talk about that makes people feel good, which makes us an employer of choice, which makes us retain and attract, and this is how we can prove it, blah, blah, blah. But just a time metric in itself, like, we measured time to fill, or we measured one group over another, and we measured 30 people, well, that doesn't tell you much. So that's, another example why it's so important that you have all attributes in one story when you're analyzing and giving your update, your status update of whatever it is that you are reporting out. Because when you can do this whole entire story, your credibility is just, out the door, out over the charts, over the moon. People start to love HR. So money, money is everything, right? I mean, companies don't exist not to make money. Even nonprofits need to make money, right? Because they need to deliver a service to people that they're helping. So these are things like cost per hire, HR production that was created after a training, cost of the terminations, cost of a bad hire. Those things are really important. A cost of managers who are poor leaders, right? You can put a lot of cost and money metrics on things, a lot of ROIs. When you want to ask for money, you better have an ROI. You need to be able to measure something. What is the business going to get out of you asking for more money? Outside of we need to do I-9s correctly, but there's still a money component there. If we don't, we could be fined this amount of money. So in most cases, HR does those, right? We've got to do medical support notices, or it's $100 per day per state that we don't do. So can we please have this system that costs X amount of dollars to do it because we're out of compliance? The business gets annoyed after a while of just hearing those. What they want to know is, can I have $5,000 to do this training because after this training was done in these other benchmark companies, they delivered 20% more revenue for their business. Can I please use a cohort group and do this training? It will only cost X amount of dollars, and if it works, then let's do it in a bigger pie. So our last metric is what's called a soft metric. So the soft metric are important, but I think we overuse these in HR. These are the feeling metrics. These are employee engagement surveys. These are benefit surveys. These are, how did we do? What do you think? How do you feel? All very important, right? It's really important to know, how was your onboarding experience? What did you like? What did you not like? Employee engagement survey is super important. My organization just did our first real big employee engagement survey, and we asked lots of questions. The downfall of HR is doing surveys and doing nothing with them. Benchmark data shows you can do 3 surveys, and after 3 surveys, if you don't do anything about it or report out the information and you keep it silent, nobody's going to either take your survey in the future or they're going to lie about it. So for us, we did our first one. We scaled it down. We didn't tell them everything we learned. We basically said, here's the 3 things you love about us, the 3 things you hate about us. We can't fix all 3 things you hate about us. We're going to focus on the top one. And here's what we're going to do. And here's how we're going to report out if what we're doing is successful over the next year. That's big, right? Important. And then for us, we measured, did our efforts help with turnover? Did it help with engagement? Did it help with retention? Did it help with hiring new people, right? That Glassdoor thing, man. Whew, lots of people like to post on that. So hopefully you're getting the sense of what it feels like and looks like and sounds like to have a full metric with all 5 attributes. So what is the downfall, the pitfall of metrics? So honestly, the biggest pitfall, in my opinion, is you have too many of them. You're doing metrics for metrics' sake, and they don't say anything, and nobody's doing anything with it. That's not good, right? That frustrates you. It frustrates the business. Well, they're probably just deleting your email, to be quite frank. And then you become noise, so they never really look at it. So then when you really do need something and want to talk to them about metrics, they kind of tune you out. So don't have too many metrics. If you're an organization that doesn't have a lot of metrics, start with a few really key ones. In my team, when I first started here 3 years ago, we just made internal metrics just as a team, just to see how we were doing, how we were feeling, how we were processing some just operational things that the business didn't care about, right? People need to get paid correctly, people need to have benefits correctly, but we knew where we had gaps, so we measured our internal efficiencies and processes. And once we got that done, and we all felt good with that rigor, then we went out to the business and said, okay, what is it that you need from this function? What is it that we could measure from you? We picked one. And then we said internally, what is it of a behavior that we want to change in some of these businesses to help drive revenue? And we found a couple. We measured manager training for leadership because we had a lot of leave of absences and employee relations complaints coming from a certain sector of the business, and it was causing turnover. We needed to change behavior. And then the business from us wanted us to be more agile in how we offered benefits across all of our different business classes. And so we were able to look at that, what the benchmarking was, and then within the confinements of being legal and resources and so forth, we were able to deliver some flexibility and then measure its impact on recruiting and retaining the right talent. So too many metrics, that's a pitfall. The next is focusing on effort, not on output. So this again is kind of with the too many metrics. You have lots of metrics, or maybe you just delivered the best, knocked it out of the park training, but you didn't measure it. There's no output. They don't know that it was out of the park training. That's a pitfall because you're kind of your own worst enemy. You know, you can't get out of your own way to be able to show that your effort had impact on the output, on the business. We focus too much on quantity versus quality. Oh my gosh, I've delivered 100 trainings this year. Can you believe it? Pat myself on the back. Well, did those trainings do anything? Did they deliver something to the business? What was the quality of those trainings? We don't identify trends, right? So I told you earlier that I look at the trends of my leaves and accommodations. I look at my trends at the benefit enrollment. What does industry say an agency should be enrolling and taking benefits, and what kind of benefits, and what are we doing, and do we have a trend that's different? And if we do, is that good or is that bad? And looking at those trends and deciding if I need to do something with them. Failing to establish a comparison. So you've heard me say over and over, the benchmark. I Google, I buy surveys, I go online and look what other people that we are competing have and do and what they say. I go onto Glassdoor. I know my business's competitors as well as I know myself. I mean, I need to. I need to know who and what I'm comparing our company against so that you want to work for us. And the most important thing, other than probably too many metrics and ties for one, is you don't ask the business, what do they want you to measure? What do they need? You don't align. HR can't do to the business. We are part of the business. Our job is to influence our business to make more money. And no other part of this whole organization can do that better than us, right? Because the business can't design a new techie gadget unless they have the right people to design that techie gadget, and we're here to find that person to design that techie gadget. The business can't sell more widgets unless we have the right people doing the widgets. The business can't be innovative unless we help them be innovative. The business can't drive more revenue and profit unless we give our people the tools and the resources to be more revenue and profit generating. So these are the biggest pitfalls of HR. And while you're not going to do any of them, I want you to know what they are. Because as you go through the next 7 weeks, you're going to be creating metrics. And I want you to think about these things. You know, a few little bonus points if I hear you say, oh, my business leader wants this, right? Because then I know you're hearing that you need to ask your business. And if it's an internal metric, the reason I want this internal metric is because, you know, I feel like we're not delivering to the business what we want, or maybe our process isn't very smooth, right? People are taking 45 minutes to have to apply, and we see our dropout rate of when people click on our recs is, 75%. Those types of things. Very important. So before I leave you, the last thing I want to talk about is HR systems. Modern business requires human resource, human capital, HRIS, they're called lots of things systems. The three systems on the side, Workday, ADP, and Ultimate, are not mutually exclusive. There's lots of systems. These are the three kind of biggest ones that I see right now that are doing predictive analytics in no particular order. Like unbelievable, knock your socks off. I get geeky when I watch or have them come and demo for me. Watch the videos when you have a second. You're not quizzed or anything on them, but I'm hoping it's going to get you jived on what we can do and what we can be and what we should be. Some of the predictive analytics coming out of the systems is unreal. The algorithms, I mean, technology is amazing, and how HR can be at the forefront at it. And my biggest role in the organizations I have been in is to put in HR systems, and they're very expensive, millions and millions of dollars. And finance does not want to spend millions and millions of dollars. So when I have to ask for money or I have to say, we need to spruce up what we have now, I really look at the systems that we have and what are the analytics that we're missing or that's too hard for my team to do on Excel or too cumbersome, or the data, as you're going to read in the book. I mean, you have to just get the data from so many different places because it's not in HR. And that if we could have it at our fingertips, if our managers could have it at our fingertips, what does it mean? What does it say? What does it do? How does it help the business? The predictive analytics coming out is insane. If, I can be shopping one day and then I go onto Facebook and all of a sudden it's like, there's shoes that you want, or how did they know that how did Instagram know I needed those bracelets? I mean, I'd never even seen the store, but all of a sudden it knew I needed the bracelets. We should be able to do that with people. Right? We should be able to do that. And we have a really cool analytical system here at my org and some orgs that I've worked at before that could tell me as a manager, hey, you have a bunch of millennials, which means that a millennial needs XYZ, predictively. And of your millennials, these 4 are high propensity of quitting because they haven't been promoted, or they are below benchmark in pay, or they've already been here 4 years, or whatever. Right? It's pretty awesome. So when you have a second, take a read, take a watch, and hopefully you will love it as much as I do. And I'm super excited for the next 7 weeks. And again, if you have questions, concerns, if you need anything, feel free to give me a call. Take care, you guys, and have a great week.